Matrix. My name is Daz, and I am really excited today to be online to interview Tim Jones from Grow Good. Welcome, Tim.
Hello, kia ora, Shamai. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm going to flip my intro a bit because I met Tim a few years ago. It was in the lockdown, I think, on an online session that he was facilitating, and he was like the man from the minute that he started, because he had this really well executed playlist that just delivered banger after banger, but each like fitted the moment that the point you were trying to make. And it was just, I was like, that guy is awesome.
Just tunes, that's half the battle. That's my theory.
It helps it stick too, though, right? Like
that's basically I'm just trying to play with people's minds and get them to vaguely remember something that I might have told them.
So Tim's purpose is to co-create a world where every human thrives, contributes fully, and is free from major concerns, where we all live in a manner that is regenerative to the planet that we call home. He was in the Reserve Forces in the UK for 7 years, which is absolutely amazing. He was New Zealand's first qualified B consultant. Did I say that right?
Yep, B consultant, not B Corp consultant.
Yeah,
it's a B consultant for some reason.
That's where it was about to go, and I was like, no, it's just B. And he's helped more than 70 companies to become B Corp certified, which is amazing, and pass their impact assessments. He loves skiing, he loves rugby, he loves medieval history, and he really loves connecting with communities. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Tim, and share some of your wisdom and get some of your stories along the way, because it's pretty exceptional. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I feel like I've got big boots to fill now.
I never feel like I do people justice in those intros, so that's good. That's really positive. So at the Good Day Matrix, we talk about 5 pillars of wellbeing, and there are many more, but the 5 that we focus on are body, mind, identity, community, and environment. So we'll kick off with identity, and then we'll just weave ourselves through. So identity, it's so important to know who you are and where you've come from. And after talking to you, you are very much on the same page as me in terms of that understanding. So tell us about your whakapapa. Tell us about your life.
And literally on the same page, in that we're probably from the same village in Wales, ultimately. So even though I've got a French flag behind me on my wall,
I don't have that today, my daffodil.
I totally agree. You know, in a lens of purpose and trying to do good and sort of in general, but life in general, I think in the modern world, we are so disconnected from our whakapapa, from our history. In the Western democratized world, clearly in the Maori worldview, you know, I was speaking at an event a couple of years ago. One of the other speakers was this guy. He was a former banker who quit his job and basically got massively involved in community. And his opening part of his talk was basically turn to the person next to you and ask them these 4 questions. What's your name? What do you do? Where are you from? And what's your purpose? And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And he was a Maori guy, and this is like in our iwi, this is how we introduce ourselves. It's like you introduce yourselves, and one of the things you say is, what's your life's purpose? It's like, well, that's pretty next level. But yeah, I think we in general are really disconnected. Like most people maybe will know, well, mum and dad were born here, or they weren't born here, and maybe you might know grandparents were born somewhere different, but beyond that, like, do you have any idea? Does anyone care? Because in the sort of 3-meter world in which we live in, or the 3-second world in which we live in, like, kind of who cares what happened 1,000 years ago? But I think it's so critical for you to be able to place yourself in the world and contextually, and be able to understand yourself, because you know, like we said, you know, I was a medical device rep for many years, and doing some family ancestry, you know, .com hashtag, you know, research, I discovered that I think it was like a great uncle of mine was a medical device salesperson. Now, most people in the world don't even know that medical device sales is a job. Like selling equipment into hospitals. Well, he was doing it like in the 1910, 1920s in like Bermuda and the Bahamas. And it's like, well, that's quite random. And then I think I was on my mum's side. And then on my dad's side, I think it was like a great uncle again, was an ambulance driver. Well, you kind of go, well, so there's two historical references here to medicine. Well, is it a shock, therefore, that I've ended up as a medical rep? Well, not completely. And I think the big one we talked about was, my sort of medieval history. So I did a degree in medieval history, did my dissertation on the Norman conquest. So 1066, King Harold, King William. Why did I choose, throughout all my schooling, like history just kind of really captured me, but particularly that medieval period, don't know why. And then I kind of, it was kind of expected that I go to university through the school that I went to. And it's like, well, if I'm going to have to go, I might as well do something that I'm vaguely curious about. So I found a course on medieval history in Cardiff so I could connect to my whakapapa, I guess, in that way. And then it was literally, like probably 5 or 6 years ago doing this ancestry piece, I discovered that one of my ancestors was a guy called Ghislaine de Halsall, who was a Norman knight who fought at the Battle of Hastings. And I'm getting tingly just thinking about it, right? You just kind of go, well, that's a thing, isn't it? Like, I could have chosen any other period of history to go and study, and any other period of history and any other world event to do my dissertation on. And I chose the Battle of Hastings. I wish I'd known I had an ancestor, because I would have completely changed my dissertation. I would have done it on him, So yeah, I just think the more you can understand who you really are, not the kind of like, well, this is who I think I am, or this is who I think I need to be. One of my favorite words is persona. Which in, I think it's Latin or Greek, can't remember off the top of my head, it means mask. And persona is what you would put on in a play. And most people are walking around with a mask on, and it's like, that does not help your mental state, because you have this kind of duality of like, this is who I want to be, this is who I think I should be, and that's not conducive to a positive mental state of mind. In my experience. No,
and most people's experience, to be fair.
Yeah.
They just may not know it.
100%. Yeah. And it manifests, I love looking at, is it etymology? The sort of meaning or history of words, or, where words come from. Disease, dis-ease. If you are dis-eased, if you are not at ease with who you are, you will be diseased.
Wow.
It's like, there's so many little clues out there, but, we think we're smart. We've got TikTok, we've got, everything. And that's the thing, you've literally got the world at your fingers on this little device. You can get any bit of information in nanoseconds. You can now get that Chat GPT robot to write you anything that you want in seconds. And, we've got all of this, we've never had so much, but we've never felt so disconnected and, frazzled for it. Yeah, it's a phrase that we've never had it so good, but never felt so bad at the same time. And it's like,
have you heard of the Dictionary of Lost Words?
No, but after this, that's what I'll be spending the rest of my afternoon on.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but a friend of ours, Cassie, who we've interviewed on here as well, she read it and then has bought it for a bunch of friends, because it's nice. Back in the day when dictionaries were being created and developed, it was with male words. And a lot of language got lost and missed because it wasn't from both sides, etc. So apparently it's really, really interesting. So that might be something that
I will check that out. That's a rabbit hole to go down.
There you go. It's always a rabbit hole when I'm around.
There's always rabbit holes. Yeah. Life is one big rabbit hole. As Alice would say.
Any other way. Yeah. So we'll move on to body. So what activities do you do daily? Any rituals or routines that you do to take care of your body?
Yeah, I've been really thinking about that, actually, not necessarily since our call, but it's hard when you've got small people in your family, because I hope most parents will try and prioritize small human rather than big human. And you then have a business, which is like having another small human, which sometimes does less what you ask it to do than your actual child does. Yeah. The last sort of 7 years in business, I've definitely not had as good a sort of body physical based routine as I needed to. I'm getting better at doing that. That being said, my baseline is a walk with a dog. Pretty much, he might not get one today because it's like 30 degrees and he's already panting and not enjoying life. But in general, like a walk, take the dog for a walk, get a podcast on the go, get into nature. Yeah, just have some me time. But yeah, really getting back into, I've got my bike out in the corner. So I'm just like a bike to a meeting yesterday instead of driving or taking a Zoom call. But yeah, I've just actually started a coaching program on my health and fitness. So been getting back into doing some weights and some movement and stuff like that. And getting my nutrition dialed in. So I started before Christmas. So I did Christmas with no alcohol, no sugar, no gluten, no dairy.
Good work.
I did have one beer on New Year's Eve, but don't tell Ollie. I figured one beer.
We'll delete that.
Yeah, we'll just cut that bit out. Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I guess in terms of body and mind, I have used a meditation app called Insight Timer. In terms of meditation, I like breathing because I feel like I need something physical and tangible rather than like just sit there and don't think of anything and then everything comes into your head. But what's that? I think is it Gandhi? He said if you think you can't meditate for an hour, it means you need to meditate for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, very active mind, lots of ideas. So I did do about 2 years of like literally every day consecutive. I think it was more than that. It was like 1,500 consecutive days of meditation. And then I got sick mid last year with a cold or flu. It wasn't COVID. And then I lost the consecutive days, and I was like, nah. So I kind of dropped that off. But again, it's on that is the next thing to get back in. It's just even if it's just 5 minutes, just have that breathing. I do also like we bought just like a little paddling pool. It's like a mini pool, like 12-foot square pool for the summer. I'm getting in that in the morning. It's not freezing cold. Yeah. That's on my saving list. Like I love being cold. I perform like today. My brain gets a bit slow. It's just too hot. Like when it's cold, that's when I can really get stuff done. So yeah, a cold plunge pool of some description, ice bath. That's on the. I didn't get the handyman jeans. That's definitely one of the identity things I didn't get. Was it those Mitre 10 adverts? It's like I'm the guy who calls the guy because it's just easier, and I'm cool with that.
You're dreaming.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm happy to be that guy. I'm happy to own that. So yeah, I'm trying to find someone who can build me, an ice bath, either out of one of those old freezer things, or there's some other things that you can do. But yeah, if I do it, I'll electrocute myself. So.
Oh my God. Well, if we're in the same region, my husband could do it. He now builds pools as well as houses, so he could.
Oh, right. Well, come down for a holiday. We'll make we'll make it work. Yeah.
Just to add, even though we're talking about body at the moment, to add into that, there's another book I read at the start of this year called The Miracle of Mindfulness. Right. And I can't say his name properly. It's like Thich Nhat, something like that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I kind of know the guy you mean.
Yeah, it's a really nice, short, small book, but it's got clear ways to meditate, clear ways to include breathing, and clear reasons that it works.
Yeah.
And you're
preaching to the choir.
yeah. And I'm bad at it. I'm a bad breather. I breathe really shallow.
Right.
And I'm bad at doing that. So it was a really great book to
a good reminder.
Read. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you, because you are one busy human, how do you prioritize doing things for your body on busy days or / just navigating that with your small humans?
Yeah. Like I say, I'm pretty like the baseline of going for a walk. I'm pretty good, like unless I'm like absolutely just shattered and I've had a big day. I mean, some days when you're doing workshop facilitation, you can easily do like 20,000 steps delivering a workshop. So if you've got a busy day, it's like, actually, do you know what? I can flag the walk. Increasingly though, the last couple of years, a lot of work done on Zoom. So yeah, I'm pretty good at the walk has been my baseline for like since we got the dog, which is about 7 or 8 years ago. It's like, well, he needs to go. I should probably go with him rather than just letting him roam around the streets. So yeah, normally my morning routine would be, get up. My daughter was going to the local school, which was like a 5-minute walk up the road. So I'd try and cajole her to walk with me. So that would be, we get some time, walk to school, drop her off. I can go and there's a little loop I can go and do. So yeah, but yeah, like I say, this last sort of 2 to 3 weeks, been getting back, try and do some a workout in the morning, and then maybe push the walk to the evening. But yeah, getting into swimming as well. I've kind of historically struggled with swimming. I just can never get my breathing right with the, in the UK, we would call it the front crawl rather than freestyle. Must be a Welsh, which is not designed to swim. Yeah, I don't remember there being many gold medals for swimming out of Wales.
That's true.
Yeah. New South Wales, different story. Obviously they had some special food or jeans or something in New South Wales. Yeah, so this afternoon, like I say, really hot day. My daughter's going down to the pool with some friends, so later on might go down and do a few laps. So that's quite. So I think swimming's kind of like a really good activity because you have to disconnect, and you're doing your breathing, so it's almost kind of like active meditation. Yeah, and then just try and count how many legs you've done. So I'm sure, have I done 10? Or was it 12? I don't know.
That's where you start to need to learn how long it roughly takes you to do a lap, and then just time it.
And time it. Well,
like,
I've got my watch
12.
now, which can count the legs, but every now and then it's like, I know I've counted 10 and you're telling me I've done 11. So
take the 11. Take the 11.
Take the 11. Yeah.
If it feels like cheating, it is. But if it's not,
No, I normally go, okay, look, I think you overcount. So I will normally finish and then do like a bonus 2.
Nice.
That's the army training in me. It's like you're already cheating yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Integrity check. It's like, no, just do it.
Yeah. Which leads us really well into mind. And talk to us about having control of your mind and sort of quitting and the strategies that you use around your mindset.
Yeah. We had a good chat about this, and I think for me, getting to know myself over the years has been really, really useful, in terms of personality profile tests. I was lucky. I spent a good 10 years in a high performing sales job where they spend a lot of money in helping you work out who you are so that you can be better equipped at talking and basically selling to other people, so you can understand psychology and what have you. So really grateful that I've had quite a lot of insight into I guess like popular psychology, but some deeper stuff into like how the mind works. And then on top of that, definitely that time I spent in the army, one of the sort of the running jokes we would have as men, because there were, in a couple of the units there were females as well, but typically for a guy, our logic was they can't kill us and they can't make us pregnant. So beyond that, what is, it's just going to be hard. But it's not that literally, if the army kills you on a training exercise, there are so many forms that someone's gonna have to fill in. It's, they're not going to push you that, then the sergeant major is not going to push you that far, because it's just going to be painful. Like whether he might not care whether you die, but it's just going to be more painful for him in the bureaucracy that he has to deal with. So one of our other mottos was, what's it? HHCIB. How hard can it be? It's like, and so that time in the army for me was just really, I think it's really taking away the worry, ultimately you might go and kill someone, but that putting people in an environment of hardship with other people who are sharing that with you, where there is this element of discipline and you just have to do it. I think it leads to a better human. There is a lot that you can get out of that as a human being.
Yeah.
So yes, I got a lot of my mindset. I had a interesting relationship, I guess, with my dad. He's passed away now, 2016. One of the things that he did get me to do stuff when I was young, physically, like we'd go walking. So in Wales, I can't remember how many. There's like X number of peaks that are over 3,000 feet, and like I did all of those by the time I was like 14 or 15. Wow. And there's a thing called the Pembrokeshire Coast Path, where you it's like on the bottom bit of Wales that kind of goes along like that. We walked that when I was probably 9, 10, 11. And he would tell me that we were doing like a mile every day, but actually we did like 10 miles every day. But you don't know what a mile is, so you just kind of do it. And there was another time we cycled from North to South Wales with another dad and his son, and we did that in like 4 days. And again, I was probably like 13, 14. And so, yeah, definitely there were some pivotal moments where it's like, well, you're just doing it and you just got to keep going. And so, yeah, I think I have a pretty good baseline of resilience is probably not the right word. There's a word that I love using, which is indefatigable. It basically means you cannot be fatigued. And sometimes that's really useful, because sometimes if you just give it one more go, if we just try it a different way, if we, just one more, sometimes that's all it takes. Just one more knock on the door and the door opens. The downside is sometimes you don't know where to give up. Or not give up, but it's like, that horse is looking pretty flogged right now. I don't think it's going to go. Genuinely don't think it's going. okay, let's jog on. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword, but I think I'd rather go further and then have to stop than not have gone there and not knowing what was possible, or, you know, not had that opportunity suddenly manifest because you quit, because you just gave up.
Yeah.
I mean, quitting, giving up, you know, they're strong words, but yeah, sometimes you do just need to realize that, yeah, it's not meant to be. And that's cool. Yeah, and I think that ability, you know, resilience, the definition for me is, you know, that ability to bounce forward or bounce back, depending how you want to frame it. Increasingly over time, I've become better at that. I used to take things quite personally. That was like my personality type, but also now, having done a lot of the deeper internal work, you know, massive need for approval, because lack of approval from parents as a child and all that kind of stuff, which is fundamentally, if you're in a sales role, mummy and daddy didn't give you enough hugs, because that's the only reason you like driving around in a car or being on a phone, having conversations with lots of people where one of them might tell you, oh my gosh, you're amazing. Yes, I'd like to buy your stuff. So yeah, that ability just to kind of, yeah, sure, look, I care, but I don't care. Like if you say no, it's on you, not me. So yeah, those have been like the two big things for me around mindset. Yeah.
That's pretty strong, right? And how much I reflect when you talk about young me, and how I actually wouldn't try in the first place for fear of getting it wrong or not being the best or being embarrassed. I had huge lack of self-confidence. And so now I kick myself because I had some wicked opportunities and I didn't give it everything I had when I had the chance, because then I could say, oh, but I didn't give it everything. And I failed at it. Well, that's why, because I didn't try.
And that's the whole thing, you know, you'll always regret the thing you didn't do rather than the thing you did do. Yeah. Because you'll never know. It's like, yeah. And we're sort of going through that. Our daughter's 10, going on 11. She's just about to move school into, it's like secondary school, but they've got intermediate as part of it. And there's a whole lot more opportunities coming her way next year, you know, like sporting, all the rest of it. And we're just like, please just go. In fact, it's like we fundamentally want to make her like, no, you're just going to go and give it a go. Because sometimes you don't know. And like you say, it's mainly that, oh, but what if I don't look good? And, you know, what if I'm no good at it? But it's if you sort of look, it's kind of a little bit Jungian psychology, you know, the idea of the jester, you know, the fool, the person who's willing to put themselves in a place of vulnerability and exposure to point something out. But you kind of have to become the fool. You have to become the kid again to start learning and be okay with the fact. I mean, it's unlikely that you're going to be an award-winning, world record-setting person in a thing on first. Like sometimes, yeah, sure, there are people like that, and there are, you know, complete outliers who are just, I mean, I guess you could look at like Jonah Lomu, you know, just turned up and was pretty much amazing at rugby, didn't need much, you know, polishing, whereas there are others who need that coaching and guidance and what have you. But yeah, how do you know until you I think that comes back to, you know, well, we haven't really talked about it, but, you know, knowing who you are, kind of knowing what you might have a proclivity for, but being willing to test that, you know, because there will be learning. But I guess that's the value of having mentors and coaches, because typically it's, you know, as you say, you know, you can't see what's in you, but, you know, someone else can see what's in you. Like you don't know that you have got this potential. So let's go give it a go.
No, that's my hope for my kids is that we do the same. They don't have to be, and they don't have to be great at everything. Like, no, but just give it a go. I always thought, oh, but I'm not good at it, so I won't try. Or, you know, I wouldn't be good enough, so I won't take that step. But I wouldn't. So I only played 2 sports, or 3 sports if you count athletics, because I was good at those. But I'd get invited to play basketball or whatever, and I'm like, oh no. And so if I just given it a nudge, but I didn't have to be the best. Like, it wouldn't have mattered if I just played social if I loved it. And that's where my mindset was wrong. So and sometimes you might be rubbish at something but really enjoy it. And like, that's okay too. Be that guy. Just don't expect guy who brings the joy. Totally. Joy and the love of it. So we'll move into community. And so we talk about community, and we're trying to break down some barriers of community as we talk about community, because a lot of people think community comes with a lot of work or a lot of time commitment, and then they don't think some of the things they're part of are actually communities when they really genuinely are. And so communities can be anything from being part of a rugby club to a knitting group to a reading group to just your neighborhood street. Like there's so many different communities. It can be your work communities. So you are particularly passionate about neighbourhood communities. So tell us about the tribe that you've collected along the way and the different communities that you're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, because I think community is one of those words that it's not very sexy and exciting. You know, it's like community watch, community neighborhood watch. I don't know. It's just got like I don't know. I just imagine old people. When you hear the word community, in my mind, I just sort of imagine old people. So I think community is a word that, it's maybe we need to check Cassie's dictionary, where it comes from. I mean, I guess, commune, communitas is sort of, the body. I think it means the body or something like that. I was testing. Anyway, I think it means something like that. Community is really interesting because, again, I think it comes back to that identity piece and, where do you connect into and, who's your tribe and all the rest of it. I guess on the meta level, my journey into discovering B Corp as a movement and having had what I call a hard Brexit from the corporate world of, working for companies who it's just about profit maximization. Literally, we don't care if we kill people whilst making as much money as we can. That's just how we roll. So at the meta level, that was like my initial big kind of community. I think realization of like community in terms of needing to connect with a group of people who think quite differently from what I'd been, brought up in. I mean, I went to school in the UK. It's interesting. I've reconnected on Facebook with with my primary school. They've got like an alumni thing going for that, and it's been quite cool. Like looking back at where it is and what the kids are doing now, and getting some updates and. But I don't really have any connections from that community. I grew up in a small village in the south of England. I don't think there's anyone, even in my phone contacts, from that village. You know what I mean? And then secondary school, again, there's a couple of people there that I've stayed connected with. University, got a big group of community there, and we've recently reconnected a group of about 10 of us. Sadly, because one of the group is quite sick with cancer, and as one of the other guys said, why did it take one of us to get really sick for us to get on bloody WhatsApp? It's like, well, that's a pretty good comment, but yes, we have all been busy with kids and family and da. So that's been really good, and that's just basically a group of lads talking rubbish to each other on WhatsApp and sending rubbish jokes and memes, which I think guys need. Because we get quite a lot of chuckles out of it, and then basically we get on a Zoom call every now and then and just abuse each other like we did in 1996. So it's like, this is great. So there's that kind of community. We're building community, within my business at Grow Good. That's a big realization for me. Is if you're a business owner, if you're working with clients individually, well, they're probably all quite similar and they've all got similar problems and aspirations and similar types of people. So put them in a group together and who knows, there might be some magic that happens. So the last 12 months, we've been really big trying to build community within, our client base, looking at expanding that into having beyond the digital community, looking at trying to get a couple of retreats going this year, maybe do a ski day or, some stuff like that to get everyone to actually, come together and meet a real person.
To go skiing, eh?
Oh, exactly. Hey. Yeah. What a crazy idea. Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
I'll put you on the invite list. Come down. And then but for me, one of the, it's been really interesting where we've lived, or where I've lived in in New Zealand. So when I first moved to New Zealand, I was in Auckland, living in a flat in Auckland with my then girlfriend. You, even like in a block of flats, did not know anyone else. Like, did not even see anyone half the time. And then when I moved down to Christchurch, and then met my now wife, the first place we lived in, it was only immediately after the earthquakes that suddenly community popped up. And I think that has possibly had an influence on Christchurch, because literally all of a sudden people going up and down the street, are you all right? Are you all right? Do you need any help? Do you want me to dig your liquefaction out? And so, and then we've lived in a couple of other. Well, we then moved to Pukekohe post earthquake, and that was pretty cool community because I had a couple of mates living there, so we kind of had like instant pop up community there. But it was a cool small community. And then where we live now in Hallswell in Christchurch, the two subdivisions that we've kind of lived in, the second one, it's actually really well designed for community. There's like a little hub of shops where I just had lunch with my colleague Tamara. So there's a couple of cafes, there's a pub, there's a gym, there's a dairy, and there's a playground. And so when my daughter was at preschool down there, you'd kind of pick her up from preschool, and then there's normally a few other parents with their kids from preschool, so you get to know them, and then it's kind of built. So yeah, where we are at the minute, it's one of those places where you actually can sort of walk around. Like sometimes it's annoying because I'm trying to take the dog for a walk. I've got half an hour. I need to get home, and you bump into 3 of your other dog walking fellows that you know, and you have a bit of a natter, and next minute it's like, right, now I'm running late. But yeah, I just think it's, you know, that's sort of part of the problems, I think, of the economic system that we're in was sort of really built in the 80s and 90s, that kind of Reaganomics, you know, what's his name? Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher. What was the guy here called? I can't remember the name of the prime minister who was like all about neoliberal stuff. I can't remember his name. Is it Rogernomics?
I want to say a name, but then I'll get it wrong because it's not my thing. So I'm not going to try and...
Someone can fact check it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's called Rogernomics here, this whole sort of neoliberal economic system. And, you know, one of the phrases that Margaret Thatcher mentioned is, you know, there's no such thing as society. It's like, it's individual. It's all about individual responsibility. It's about you looking after yourself, you doing the best that you can do. And I guess that's like the true conservative message, is it's not about government. It's not about handouts or benefits. You know, it's about you doing the best that you can do. And yes, 100% individual responsibility, but you as an individual are nestled in a society and a community, and we are a social species. So yeah, I just think we're pretty lucky here. And when my daughter's been at the local school here, she, like I say, she's just leaving, but you know, I've emceed the quiz night there a couple of times, you know, been involved with the school where I can, you know, and then so you meet the parents. You know, during the holidays, we'll always try and, because my wife and I both work for ourselves, it's like, hey, could you take our kid today? We'll take your kid and those 2 kids that day. So yeah, just having that sense, you know, it's that corny phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, and it does. And I think we're just quite lucky here. We've got, well, I don't know, I guess I can't speak for everyone's experience, but yeah, it just feels like that there is a bit of sense of community here. People do look after each other. I mean, our next door neighbours, they're Afghani, and one day the bloody dog, always the dog, I was bringing the dog back from a walk, and I hadn't really met, they've got, you know, fairly big extended family, and there was one of the daughters was outside. I was just like, oh, hi, you know, because we'd only recently moved in. Hi, you know, how's it going? Having a bit of a chat. Her boyfriend came out. I was like, hey, how's it going? And the next minute a car drives past and just starts abusing them, like, you effing this, like giving them loads of racial abuse. I was like, whoa, okay. And the guy pulled up the road and then came back, and I was like, I said to the girlfriend, hey, do you want to just go inside and ring the police? Because I think this has got potential to go beyond this guy just shouting out of his car. Anyway, he kept shouting, and he went away, then he came back again and sort of drove past again. By this point, the police had turned up. So, you know, I ended up going to court as a witness to say, well, yeah, this is the guy, you know, I was standing there and I saw it happen. You know, so just that sense of community. So now we get on really well with them because we've got this shared sort of sense of, you know, and one of their daughters was actually, she was a couple of years older than our daughter. But, you know, just even little things like some neighbours down the other end of the street were away. They're like, hey, could you put our bins out? You know, so that the burglars don't notice. Yeah, sure. You know, and I just don't think you get that in every community. And I think it's an important part, because otherwise you're just you living in your house, driving in your car to go to your cubicle in your office. And it's like, yeah, I just think there's a depth that you can get, which people just maybe don't think about so much. I think it's hard though, because I mean, look at like me, most of my good friends are still in the UK. So, you know, even if you're just moving from one suburb to another in Christchurch, it's not always easy, because everyone is busy, everyone is, you know, frazzled and but it's kind of like, I mean, whenever we have moved house, we didn't do it here for some reason. I think it's because we're on a street which is like it's a bit of a main road, so it's not as easy to get across the road. In the previous house we're in, it was in a cul-de-sac, and we baked some, well, I say we, the royal we, my wife and daughter baked some cupcakes, and we went around, just knocked on every door, said, hi, we're the new people at number 11 or number 5 or whatever it was, and then we even, I think it was maybe about 6 months later, we said, hey, look, why don't we have a street barbecue? It'll be at our house, you just bring some food, and everyone came along. And you know, at the end of the day, you come home from work, or I work from home, you know, you're in the street, you see your neighbours, you have a bit of a chat, you know, it's like, yeah, we'll look after your kid tomorrow, yeah, no worries. And there's so much you get out of that, you know, there's so much in it for you.
There's a lot to be said for going deep instead of wide, and all the connections that we have and all the relationships that we have as well, because
100%,
you know, it's really easy to say, oh yeah, no, like I'm part of this and I'm part of this, but how much are you actually part of it, and how much it is a part of you as well. With the chat with your friends, my dad turns 80 this year, And I introduced him to technology a few years ago, and we've slowly got up to Facebook and Facebook Messenger. And he managed to find a friend of his from primary school, and now they have this chat where they literally send each other funny memes and funny videos that I do not want to see. Oh my God, Dad, what are you doing? But it's brought him so much joy, just that connection. And his friend now lives in Australia, so you wouldn't have known where to find him, what to do, but his name popped up and we were able to find him. And and it's beautiful. Those kind of relationships are beautiful.
Yeah, that's what we need. I mean, we're a communal, we're semi-advanced monkeys floating on a spinning disc in the middle of multiple universes. We need community. We need to, for lots of reasons. You can't do everything by yourself all the time. Yeah, and it brings joy instead of just siloed dread. So we'll move into environment. And when we talk about environment around here, we talk about everything. So it can be sustainability, it can be the environment you create around yourself, work environment, home environment, like anything. But with you today, I'm really keen to sort of narrow ourselves into two parts, which is the people that you spend time with and you choose to spend time with, and what's going on in our environment in terms of the marketing that we see and the slogans that we hear and things that pop up on every street corner. So talk to us about the environment that you try to create in order to thrive. So because I had this deep-seated need for approval, I like working from home by myself, because when I'm in a co-working space or an office, it's like, oh, should we go for a cup of tea? Yeah, sure, Daz. Yeah, let's go. Any excuse to be social and not do work, sign me up. So high five on that one. So that's why, I've kind of worked out that in terms of my work environment, working from home, where I don't have to, commuting just blows my mind. Like the few times when people are like, oh, can we meet at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in town? No, like what? Don't put me through your misery. Like, no, just
not how I'm going to start my day.
So that's why I like working from home. I can ease into my morning. I can go and take the dog for a walk. I can, listen to a podcast. I can make my breakfast. No stress, no rush, no sitting in a car for 45 minutes when it should be like a 15-minute drive into town if you're going to drive. So I kind of have curated my environment here in the office. I've got loads of like motivational things in front of me. I've got my big Welsh dragon here. I've got some pictures of me, delivering events and some other, bits and bobs. So that I'm kind of, subconsciously looking at them. I try and keep my office as clean, and clutter-free as possible, but I'm fundamentally one of those ideas people. So there's scraps of paper and bits that it's like, okay, like get them into the notebook. So in terms of that environment, I guess, I get a lot of human connection digitally. We've got clients all over the world, so that's cool. But it was interesting. I went into, was it yesterday? No, day before yesterday. So Tamara, a colleague of mine, we went into town for a couple of meetings, and she was, at the end of the day, she was like, how many people do you know in Christchurch? Because literally every cafe we went into was, oh, hey, how's it going? And she's like, bloody hell. She's like, you need to get into town more, because like there's all the incidental meetings. Like, I get that. But that's also the problem, is you get distracted, and I see all these people, and if with your ruthless kind of business hat on, it's like, they're not going to work with me. I need to be on the Zoom call with the client who is paying me money right now. So it's an interesting, so maybe, the compromise is like one day a month or once a fortnight. It's like, we just book a day in town, roam around the usual cafes and say hi to some people that I don't. Just
advertise it, be like, Tim Jones will be in this cafe
what, for one day only?
One Friday of every month.
Well, it's not a bad idea, because we were talking yesterday, within the B Corp community, myself and a couple of others locally, we run a thing called Be Local, which is an opportunity for people, for the B Corp community, people on the journey, and people who are just like, what is a B Corp? We run events and come along. And I was sort of saying, well, maybe we just need to do like one Friday of the month. It's like, we're in this pub from 5 o'clock. So you just kind of know. So maybe I just do that, pick that day. That's my town day. Nice idea. Thank you. I'll take that.
People will come, right?
They will. If you build it, they will come. Right. Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams. Showing our age.
Hey.
Sorry, I was talking to a group of students from Minnesota the other day. They were doing a study tour in Canterbury, and the regional economic development agency were like, hey, would you be able to come and give a talk to them on B Corp, because they're studying kind of impact and purpose as part of their overall program. I was like, yeah, sure, I can give a talk to them. And I was like, you drop in some, most of my workshop clients are sort of, middle-aged-ish, or, someone in the leadership team is sort of our age. And you forget, like, these kids are like 18. You go, you've got no idea who I'm talking about, do you? I was like, so I sort of paused and said, so when I was at university, I was like, okay, I should back it up. Do any of you know who Princess Diana was? And there was a few sort of going, okay, right. Well, she was alive when I was at university. It's like, trying to think of something. It's like, I think Bill Clinton was your president when I was at university. Like, do you know him? And they were like, yeah, I think I've heard of him.
Oh my, I work with 2 20-ish-year-olds and they never know what I'm talking about. And so I'll start and I go, hold on a minute, have you even seen this? I'll be like, what?
Yeah. I'll send you the link on YouTube.
Yeah. More often than not now, they'll like, Emily who works here will say to me, remember, you could be my mum.
Oh, stop it.
Cut that out. I'm 37. I'll be a young mother.
I'm not that old. I'm very young mother. Classic.
So I imagine you have some pretty strong values. How do you take those values and make them non-negotiables in any environment? Because often there can be a bit of ethical fading and people can be this way in one environment, but this way in another. So how do you... intense amounts of deep personal development work to work out who you actually are. Because that's the thing. Otherwise, you will change and compromise and be who you need to be in. And I think, in terms of like individual purpose work, that's where a lot of people are struggling. They are work Tim, and then their friends Tim, and then their home Tim. And it's like, well, why are they different? Why is it that you would have this conversation as a friend, but you wouldn't have that conversation with your boss, and your wife doesn't even know that you think about that? It's like, that's, you can't hold that. It's that, I call it I think it comes from Vedic kind of scripture stuff, or Buddhism. It's like, head, heart, hand alignment, what you think, what you feel, and what you do. Like, if they're not in alignment, that catches up to you. And again, I think there's a lot of people. So I do have a pretty clear idea of who I am, what my values are, what I think is, right or wrong. But equally, there is a lot of gray and nuance, and everyone's on the journey. Everyone's fundamentally, I like to think most people are trying to do the best that they can with what they've got. Some people, I do doubt that. Actually, no, you really just don't give a damn, do you? You really are just here for yourself. So I think in general, with that in mind, I mean, it's interesting, from a work perspective, over the years, 7 years in business, there's been a couple of clients where I'm like, ideally, I wouldn't like to do work with you, but I have to pay the mortgage next month. And if I don't pay the mortgage next month, I have to go get a job, which means I don't get to do any of my work, which I think is benefiting planet, people, and society. So, there's tensions within that, but I think it's doing it knowingly as opposed to sort of blindly, sort of following your whim, or not even knowing that you don't, it's almost like the cognitive dissonance. Like, my mum's a great example of this. She'll go, went to the warehouse and, everything's made in China. Everything's made in China. And it's like, well, everything there is, but you could go and buy an artisan cup. And it's like, but they're so expensive. Okay, right. Well, you can't hold, both those to kind of be true. You either want cheap or you want made locally. Typically, there's a, what is it? It's like, you can have it on time, on cost, or what's that triangle? It's like, so just get, kind of get it into your consciousness that you're not going to get that. You're probably not going to get cheap and good value or well made. So just be cool with that, and therefore stop complaining about it. And I think there's a lot of people walking around in this state of cognitive dissonance where they're saying one thing, but deep down they know that they don't actually believe it. And I think if we could have like a Men in Black style, and just get everyone to actually be who you should be and stop mucking around here, we'd solve quite a lot of problems in the world. I read Brené Brown's Dare to Lead a couple of years ago. And in there, it challenges your values, obviously, because I used to be like, and this is important to me, 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 and cleaning on my feet, this is important to me. But if you said to me, what are your value stands? I'd be like, I'm not sure, because I hadn't really dug into what they are, what they mean to me, and what is absolutely non-negotiable anywhere I go. And so I worked on it, and I narrowed it to 2. And then I went to my husband, I was like, what do you reckon my 2 would be? And it was integrity and caring, I think he said for me.
Nice.
And I go, no and no. And he goes, really? And I go, well, I wish integrity was like the non-negotiable one, but there are environments I've been in where I haven't spoken up when I should have. And so I can't say that absolutely negotiable anywhere. It's a work on it. I'd love it, but it's not. So my two are connection and usefulness. Any environment I'm in, I want to be useful. If I'm sitting there blank faced at a table being absolutely useless, what am I doing here? Am I impacting this positively in any way? No, I'm in the wrong place. And if I'm not connecting, if I'm sitting there and I feel alone, or if I feel like disrespected, or whatever it is that makes me start to close in and be my little introverted self, then what's going on? And am I connected to the project? Am I connected to the people? Am I connected to myself? But this year I've added a third. I'm confident that my third is there.
It's on point.
And I can't, it's non-negotiable anywhere, is making a difference. Because that's non-negotiable wherever I am. That's what I want to do. And so now that starts to come back into integrity. If I don't say something, am I making a difference? No. Start standing up and have the difficult conversations when they're not great humans. Or not great humans, not doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah. And that's tough. I think it's tough for most humans to stand up and point stuff, unless you've got that type of personality type that's just like, I just don't care. But I think for a lot of people it's hard to do. But that's where in that in that hard part, that's where the growth is. That's where the learning, and once you've done it once, it's like, oh, okay, actually no one has died, no one's thrown a rock at me, there are no spears being thrown. Actually that wasn't, and actually the other person's recognized the truth here. I think that's something that's really sitting in my mind. Is I think there's a whole lot of things that have been going on globally. There's this whole chat GPT thing, you're across that. I just think truth in 2023 is going to be harder to actually get to. I don't think we're going to know what is what. And I think that is, I don't know whether we are existentially ready for that as a species. It's like, it's been harder to know actually what is the truth, even though we've got Google and what have you at our disposal. But the whole Russian bots, you look at elections done recently with that Cambridge Analytica. It's like, you don't know, you just don't know anymore. And that is, I think it is quite scary. I think it's kind of like, which maybe brings back to community. It's like actually having that deep connection with someone that you can absolutely trust, and that they are not lying. I think I was also reflecting, I don't know, it's the bloody historian. Well, it's a history degree. So in the Industrial Revolution, there was a group of people in England called the Luddites, and they would go around destroying, the industrial machines. You do just wonder whether there is going to be like some neo-Luddites who are like, actually, we're going to go and find ChatGPT and we're unplugging it from the matrix. We are going to go and find Google and unplug Google from the matrix, so that you actually, and whether they'd be successful or not, I don't know. I kind of get the impression there's a growing awareness that technology is not necessarily always used in our own best interests by ourselves or by other people, like the social dilemma and all of that kind of stuff. So are we going to see, it just kind of feels like we're at a real crossroads of either complete digital, and obviously Elon with his neural link, plug it into your head. It's like, there's a lot of people I actually don't want to know what's going on in their head, to be honest. I think it would be probably the world shouldn't know. So I think that's completely off track there. But I suppose it is about environment to a degree, isn't it? It's like, the digital environment versus an analog. And
it links really well into the last part of the environment that we're going to talk about, which is like blocking out the noise and how to, and it's back to that sort of thing, marketing on every corner and a billboard here and all these slogans that we hear. How do you block out the noise? And it links really well to that as well.
So I'm pretty sure the word slogan used to mean battle cry. I'm just going to Google that while we're right on here. So, you are being hit with these. So origin is a Scottish Highland war cry. So the slogan is a war cry that a group is shouting at you to basically get you to do what they want to do, which is quite interesting when you sort of break it down. Again, having gone through the psychology of how to sell to people and being a salesperson. And, you know, as part of some of the training we deliver, we help people understand this and work out like, but use it as a force for good, you know, the psychology of messaging and marketing and selling. But it does just annoy me when you're driving around or walking around and it's just billboard, 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 and there's just another billboard. And then you can't even go to I don't know what it's like in the ladies, but in a gent's toilet, in front of the urinal, sign. Yeah, it's like, I can't even take a piss without you trying to sell me something.
It's prime marketing space.
Well, I get it. I totally get it. But it's like, really? Like, you can't even just have a 5 minutes peace and quiet going to the bathroom. It just it sort of breaks your heart a little bit that, you know, again, we're supposedly this hugely advanced species that's in charge of the world, and, you know, we're the ones that theoretically have this consciousness. And even the internet, to a degree, like, you know, all we use it for is try and get people to buy shit that they possibly don't need. So the whole advertising stuff is really interesting. I feel like I'm pretty immune to it. In general, it doesn't mean I don't get captured by it. The ones that I'm more captured by, and the reason why is because scarcity is the number one psychological tool that will get someone to do something. So that's why, you know, when you're looking to buy something and they'll say there's only 2 left at this price, you will possibly just buy it and work out how to return it. So I do get caught mainly with that scarcity, because you think, well, I actually do need it and maybe I won't. But you kind of know that actually deep down there will be more of it. But so in general, I try and look at advertising and actually see it for what it is. One of my favorite ones, it's a few years ago now, it was at Christchurch Airport, and it was a picture of a BMW 7 Series on some beautiful, you know, alpine road in you know, northern France or Italy, or southern France or northern Italy, and it had, you know, a guy in his sort of late 40s, early 50s, you know, chiseled, you know, suit, you know, Hugo Boss suit, and it just had, the slogan was just success driven. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you have just nailed it, because it's saying if you drive this car, then you are successful. If you're looking to be this successful, you need to be driven to be able to get this. It's like,
that's
actually, like, your ad agency have just, and it's the demographic. It's like, you've sold it. And I just looked at it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I could see that if I was not as mentally robust to be able to see this, and I saw that message a few times, I'd possibly go and buy a BMW. And that's like, what, 150, 200k thing that you go and buy easy. And so I like to feel that I'm pretty immune to it. And I just think, like I said, I can't remember the name of the movie. It was, I think it was a movie. It's on YouTube. I'll see if I can find it for show notes, whatever you. It's these people that they did like a history of, it was like a history of graffiti and street art. And at the end of it, these local graffiti artists were sort of saying how, you know, part of what they were saying is, you know, as graffiti, and I mean like good graffiti artists, not some 12-year-old tagging it, you know, with some stupid thing, like really, really good art. And they were sort of saying, you know, graffiti and graffiti artists have always been edgy. They've been looking for those areas of town where it is a little bit on the edge of gentrification. It's the artist quarter, but, you know, they're not, they can be like amazing. And what he was sort of saying was, you know, why should this be illegal when this billboard, which is in front of my house, is totally legal and it's shit? It's like a really rubbish picture of something that I don't want to buy. And so they were going around graffitiing on the advertising boards and making, and a mate of mine actually just sent me a link today in The Guardian, I think it's in the UK. So climate activists are now tagging, it was Toyota and Volkswagen billboards, and they're changing them from sort of like, you know, buy our car, it's great, to like, no, this is still a gas guzzler, you shouldn't be buying this car. So yeah, I just think it's interesting how you have no say in what is put in front of your eyes, and they know how that messaging works. And if you're not aware, if you're not conscious of what's being put in front of you, it works. You know, when I last checked the number, it was a few years ago, but it's about $500 billion a year is spent globally by the advertising and marketing industry. They're not doing it for your good. They're doing it to sell however many more billions of dollars of products to you. Yeah, so I just think, like I say, well, the cat's out of the bag now. If someone sees this in a few years, I've had this dream. Well, someone's already done it. I think it's been done in the US. Some people will buy up a billboard and they take a picture of the scene that is behind the billboard and they put that on the billboard. I think that's beautiful. So I'd like to get a group of people who want to do that in New Zealand. Or the other one would be to just start buying up some billboard space, and with no advertising for me on it, just have like call a friend, or go home early today and spend time with your kids, or go for a beer with your best mate, or go for a walk. Just put a load of slogans with no, like, don't go buy anything. Just go do something that's good for you. Pull over at the next lay-by and meditate for 5 minutes. just don't buy anything.
Yeah. Let's hook you into,
we'll make it happen.
The team of MediaWorks and stuff who've got billboards, and let's see what could happen.
See what they can do. Yeah, they might be like,
surely
but there's no money in this.
It's not all sold, that they could just pop something in.
Yeah.
It'd be brilliant.
That's my theory.
Be like, ad, go do something good for you. Ad. It works. So we'll move into our last part, which is what we call portion distortion. And I genuinely don't think it matters if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you are in your 20s, if you're in your 50s, if you've got kids, if you don't, if you're in corporate world, if you're not. Time is our biggest connector almost of our challenges. And no, we don't all have the same challenges with time, but we do still have challenges with time.
Yeah.
So talk to us about some of the challenges you've faced with time, and how you've dealt with those. Yeah.
Like, as I sort of probably articulated, I've been working with this framework. A mate of mine, Adam, he's a coach for this thing called EOS. I don't know if you heard of that, Entrepreneur's Operating System. So it's a way for sort of smaller business owners to sort of start operationalizing, get some systemization kind of going. And in it, they say, like, look into your business and who is the visionary and who is like the implementer. And I clearly met all the criteria for the visionary, like lots of ideas, connections, high value discussions, like that's me. So time and discipline around time, getting things done, like that's not my strength. But I know that, and I'm kind of cool with that. And I'm working on a plan around that. So like I said, I've got Tamara, who's just started working for me. She's slightly better on getting stuff done like that. The next plan is to actually get, a VA or an EA of some description who's like, actually, you tell me what to do, not I'm telling you what to do, because I need that structure. One thing I find really useful is, so Mondays and Fridays, I typically do not let clients in to me on a Monday or a Friday, because it just gives me that breathing space. So Monday theoretically is like my admin day, and then Friday is like a creation day. So podcasts, things like this, trying to do stuff within our own community. So definitely time blocking, because if you don't block it out, it gets filled. And even when it is blocked out, it gets filled, because some people are like, oh, we only work on a Monday. Right, okay. Yeah, of course you do. So definitely try to time block. I did use, what's it called? The Pomodoro technique, where you do, like, you set a timer for like 60 minutes or 55 minutes, then you do a 5-minute break. I tend to just get stuck into something, and I'd rather just like do it and then break, do it, then break. So I'm still pretty loose as a goose around some of that stuff, but it's, it's that I think it's the challenge for the creative visionary type people, is sometimes you get captured by the thing and you just have to go with it, and you can't just put it into I'm going to do that from 9 till 9:50 every day. So it's trying to balance that. Like, there's 2 books I want to write this year. There's a couple of retreats we want to run. There's a conference we'd maybe like to pull off. Like, there's a lot of things we want to try and do this year. We're just trying to work out what actually, like, no, because again, it's like, indefatigable, yes, but don't die. So just being realistic around what you can achieve, and then trying to just things like, with the book, I spent pretty much this last weekend trying to really get my head into it and work out the structure, and got a fair bit of content in there. But it's like, it's going to take way longer than I thought. And so the smart thing would be to go, right, once a day, I just open it up and spend 20 minutes just writing another piece. I need to get better at doing that. I'm probably not giving any advice here for anyone who's like me. If you're disciplined and you get it, you're all good.
It's nice that it's not like, and I do this and this and this, and I'm efficient and I'm amazing. Like, it's real, I'm giving it a try, and some things have worked, some things haven't. I tried that timer thing. I'd stop at 50 minutes and then have 10 minutes of like walking. And that doesn't work for me,
And then
because
2
once
hours
I'm
later,
in it, I just need to finish what I'm doing. I don't do well coming away and then coming back. Yeah. But this year,
100%.
what we've found, because our team are very similar, we've got heaps we want to achieve, but it's a small team who want to have a big impact. And it's how do you eat an elephant one big bite at a time thing. So we've done the whole quarter thing this year. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. What's the one big thing?
Yeah, like the big rock.
Q1, big two, so like we want to do a conference also in Q4. So it means that we know that's really the giant, thing we're going to have to deal with. And that's going to take some work. That's why it's in Q4. And then there's some big things, but still not nearly as big as that in terms of the big thing to do. And then we've each got our key strategy things that we're doing within that as well. So it seems to have helped even me going, okay, cool. So I need to start working on that in March, not right now. Well,
I'm trying to see if I got it. Principle. This was a bit of a revelation to me the other day. So it's like a linear calendar.
Yeah.
And I've not really ever seen a linear calendar before.
No.
And for me, visually, that works really well, because I can. So it's on my list for this weekend is to start putting in some of the big rocks in here, because that I can kind of go, oh, actually, that's coming up like really quickly. Or okay, so I'm trying to get that. I need to get it done like A3 so I can put it on the wall. But that to me was a bit of a revelation, that you can get a calendar in that rather than like the traditional layout. So that's my plan, is to start putting in like some of the big rocks. Like, okay, well, Q1, the big focus is this, and then because otherwise you drift and you get distracted, and there's it's kind of magpie syndrome. It's shiny, squirrel, like and then what was I doing? Well. But my biggest thing, my biggest learning has been that I write myself a to-do list. It's a giant to-do list, but I think I have to do everything on the list, but I don't. And then I would be wasting time finishing this list when there's this big thing that needs to get sorted out. But I would, instead of going to that thing that was really important, but it's important that I finish this document that no one's going to look at. So that's been really important for me too. So now I write down weekly 3 outcomes that I want by the end of the week. And then I've got the strategic priorities that I'm particularly working on. So every week I'm working towards those instead of kind of forgetting about them and doing the day-to-day big giant to-do lists. So that's been really, really helpful. My mate, Matt, he sent me a great meme on one of the WhatsApp groups. It says, I do not have ducks or a row. I have squirrels and they're at a rave. I was like, you have won the internet for 2022, as far as I'm concerned. It's like that. It sums up my life.
Front page of my diary, because it's exactly what it feels like.
Nice. I need to print that off and put it somewhere. Because it's like, I was like rolling on the floor with that one.
So to finish this round, why is it so important to do things and prioritize doing things that bring you joy?
That's a great question. And it's so I think with the whole time thing, it links to purpose as well. So the whole idea of like a flow state. So flow is that if you've got like the graph like that, it's kind of how hard it is and how good you are at doing it. And a state of flow is when you're pushing yourself where it's just hard. It's kind of like a video game. If it's too hard, you quit. If it's too easy, you can't be bothered. So you need something where the end of level baddie is just challenging, that it maybe takes you 3 or 4 goes, but then you get through it and then you're kind of up to the next level. So from a purpose perspective, having joy and a state of flow in what you're doing on the day-to-day is critical, because you're going to spend 80,000 hours at work across your life. And if you are, I always pick on accountants because I'm rubbish with numbers, but let's say if you've fallen into being an accountant and you absolutely hate being an accountant and you just wanted to be a nurse, you need to have a real think about that, because if you don't have that joy in the work that you're doing, you're just not going to be a good human and to anyone around you, and you're going to hate your life and it's going to end miserably. So I think there's finding joy in the day-to-day, and as much as you can, because there's always going to be some things that you don't want to do, but you have to do it. That's okay. But again, I think, joy, I guess there's sort of 2 parts to it. Joy would just be like, having some good times, with friends or family, but also, I guess it's called restorative flow. So doing activities that aren't necessarily, part of your job. So it's like, for me, it's skiing in the winter. Just like skiing, you're in the mountains, it's blue skies, it's crisp, and all you can think about is the next turn you're going to do. It's like, that gives me so much joy. And my wife she doesn't ski. She doesn't like the cold. She doesn't get it. And I'm like, you have no idea how much I need to go skiing. it's like, it's not kind of like, if there's some snow, maybe I'd go. It's like,
Yeah.
If there's no snow, I'll probably go and give it a go because I just need to do this. So yeah, I think it's just trying to get really clear on what does give you joy and making that time for it. So yeah, during the winter, it's kind of like I typically try and keep one day during the week where I can go for a midweek ski. There's a couple of other guys and girls we know who are self-employed or who've got pretty relaxed employment relationships.
Yeah.
And it's like, yep, it's looking good on Wednesday. Great, let's go. So yeah, just I think, yeah, again, hanging out, good times with people. Skiing's a big one for me. Yeah. I also do like alone time. I am traditionally what you'd call, well, people probably have gathered from listening to this, a fairly extroverted human, but actually I think I'm more of what's called an ambivert. So I can be an introvert, I can be an extrovert. And actually for quite a lot, because I do a lot of this kind of stuff, like, so yesterday I did like, one 60-minute and then 1 2-hour block of B Corp consulting. And by the end of that, I was wiped out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see a human tonight. Like, I just want to go and sit on the couch and do nothing. So, and it's okay, and sometimes quite often I'll sort of say to the family, does anyone want to come for a dog walk with me? And they'll be like, no. And I'm like, actually, that's quite nice.
Yeah.
I get to go by myself. Yeah. And I don't feel bad for that. Yeah.
I love it. Well, I was talking to you before we started recording about my spinning wheel.
Yeah.
And those are all my things, not necessarily goals, but just things I want to do in 2023. And one is time to wander. So just time that I'm not going, when I get back, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to call this person. It's just, so I've achieved it a few times so far in January, which is great. Long may it continue, but yeah, consciously though. So when I'm doing my weekly plans, I'm looking at this wheel as well. So I don't just look at my work goals. I look at this stuff as well and going, am I spending time with the kids? Am I connecting to people,
Yeah. Because it's easy to lose it in the busyness of busyness.
Yeah. And then, and that's why I've done it, because I love joy. I want to laugh.
Yeah. What a crazy idea.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And, belly laughs, music, moving, seeing my kids happy, but it all brings joy. But if you're running around like a headless chicken or squirrels at a rave, they are enjoying themselves.
We should go to a rave one time dressed as squirrels.
I'm coming to Christchurch in a few weeks, so I will find a squirrel costume. If you keep something.
Wait for the update of this podcast. Live streaming. Whoop whoop.
With your disco light in the background.
Yeah.
So your disco light in the background. You've nailed it.
There we go.
Joy. All right, I have some quick fire questions to roll us out of this today. What are your 3 favorite smells?
Obviously, squirrels at a rave. Can you imagine the smell of a room full of squirrels that have been raving? Yeah. This was actually the hardest of the quickfire questions. I think like a good roast dinner, that's a smell that everyone loves. I was trying to think, is there a smell of skiing? I guess there kind of is when you're in like that smell of the snow, and I couldn't describe it for you. Yeah, and then I was really stuck. I couldn't really think of a third one. I guess the cheesy one would be, like the smell of my daughter's hair, or something nice like that. But then if you asked me to write it down and describe it, I couldn't tell you what it was. No. But I know when she's having a snuggle, it's nice.
That particular one, this is not quick fire. I'll get grounded for this for later when they edit this, but that is like the contentious thing. So some people say they love the smell of their kid's head, and I'm one of them. And others will be like, ooh. Enjoy that. And I'm like, that's so weird. You smell your kids? My kids.
Maybe it says more about how often their kids wash.
Oh, now I have a 9-year-old, and it doesn't really matter how much he washes. It's a bit different now. It's turning into a man.
That's boys for you. We just smell it.
What are your favorite books?
So my all-time favorite book is The Count of Monte Cristo. Have you seen the movie or read it?
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know why or how I came across it, but it's just one of those books that you just go, man, this is like a proper epic story. So for those of you who don't know, it's about this guy who's falsely imprisoned and eventually gets out of prison and then goes on a trail of like vengeance and retribution to find all the people that led him to get into prison. And how he does it is like really phenomenal. It's just like, I don't know, it just kind of really captured me as like a story. other than that, I've got one of the books I've got around me, I guess, like Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. I suppose that's kind of up there. There's a book up there on my shelf called is it called? I think it's called A More Beautiful Question. And it's about how do you to be curious and challenge things. Like the way you do that is by coming up with the best question.
Yeah.
And I read that first when I was in sales. And yeah, having that, like trying to, what is the best question I can ask to get what I want, you know, or help the client get what they need. Yeah, that's be quite a good one. Yeah, I've been a bit slack on books recently. I listen to a YouTube video while I'm walking, or a Spotify, you know, podcast. Yeah, probably do need to get back. There's a Japanese word which describes the books that you own that you won't read. It's like there's just loads of them. There's here on the corner of my desk, on my bookshelf here. Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Need to make the time. Yeah.
I read 20 books in 2022, and I'm not a reader, so I'm incredibly
that's solid work.
Proud of myself, and now I can say I'm a reader. So I've set 25 this year. What's your go-to dish to cook?
Up until recently, it would have been a cheese omelette, because that's what I had for my breakfast pretty much every day for probably I don't know, since I can remember, the last 5 years. But I'm on this no dairy diet at the minute, so I've just been having scrambled eggs. But yeah, cheese omelette, nice and easy. If not, it would possibly be some kind of, I do quite like ribs, chips and coleslaw. Can't go wrong with that, can you?
Sidebar, I'm dairy intolerant, so you can make a beautiful omelette. Get some almond milk, unsweetened almond milk, the green label, and get some Anchor lactose free. Oh no, you want dairy free, so get some dairy free cheese at the supermarket. Probably the mozzarella would be quite nice in an omelette.
We've got some to try, but I'm like really being hardcore on this diet, so I figure that's cheating, even having.
Oh no.
So,
nah, the plant-based ones, 100% plant-based. It's not cheese.
All right, I'll give it a go tomorrow.
Or you can use a powder. I'll come back to you on that one. Anywho, what world record do you think you have a shot at breaking?
That was another tough one. Possibly something about being tall, although not that tall really in the scheme of things. Hopefully, ultimately one day helping the most number of companies become B Corp certified. I reckon that would be a pretty cool one to get.
Yeah.
There's a guy in the UK who does what I do, and he's already ahead of me, so I've got to raise my game.
It's a great goal to have.
I think it would be up there.
Yeah. What is your go-to pick-me-up song?
I love a lot of music. But as a mate of mine at university said, Welsh people seem to have a little switch in the back of their heads. And when 1,000 Trees by the Stereophonics comes on, it's like you all turn into a bunch of lunatics. That is just one song that really, you know, from university, it's just, there's that one. And of course, there's Mr. Jones by the Counting Crows.
Nice.
Thankfully, their concert's coming up here in Christchurch. I'm going to go to the concert with a T-shirt that says Mr. Jones, and I'm going to get one for my wife, which has got "and me" written on it, and see if anyone gets the lyrical reference. If
they don't, I will cry on your behalf.
Yeah. You should not be at this concert if you don't get this joke. Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice that you've heard?
So this was from a guy called Gary. I think it was Gary Butterfield, a guy who. So when I lived in Australia for a year, left the UK, went to Australia for a year, went back to the UK for a year, ended up in New Zealand. And I was kind of drifting around a little bit, kind of doing like a bit of an OE type thing. And I ended up living with an Australian family, and he was friends with the dad of the family that I was living with. And his piece of advice to me was keep smiling, keep reaching out, shaking hands and saying good day, and good things will come your way. And I'm like, yeah, I can't disagree with that. And it's kind of, I guess it loops back to what we were saying at the beginning. It's like, if you don't know, if you don't ask, you don't know. It's like, just, hi, how's it going? I'm Tim. How are you? You know, it's a great way to start.
And it doesn't have to be flash, amazing, you know, advice. That's the amazing. That's human.
Yeah. Just
like
say good day.
Yeah.
Connect with another human. Say good day. How's it going?
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised what comes out of just a little conversation.
Yeah. We being in Christchurch, you must see him. We interviewed Jason Gunn last year.
Yep.
And he said the same. He'll just be in a coffee shop and he'll just offer to pay for someone's coffee. Yeah. And it's just, he said, I brighten their day, and it's a touch point, and it's, hey, you know. But often there's another little story that might pop out of something that's going on in their life, or, you know, whatever it is. And I think that's just so, it's just easy. It's easy.
Yeah. He drives past my house.
Standing at the queue and not talking to anyone, just you know.
Yeah, I think it is a bit of a Welsh thing. Like there's a lot of Welsh people I know, and we will. I'll have instead of like a rubbish conversation, like, you know, with a shop assistant, like I'll actually try and have how's your day going? Yeah. What's been the most random customer you've had today? And I don't know whether it's also like the salesperson in me. Like I just want to have rapport and build connection with people. But yeah, there's a lot of Welsh people I know that you'd have a conversation with a stranger at the bus stop. It's just like, I think there is an element of that with it. The Welsh, we're interested, but we like connection and community, but equally we can be quite standoffish. But I think in general, there's something in it about just having connection and conversation with a random punter.
Yeah,
you don't know what you might get at. And in New Zealand, you typically find out that you're related.
How many degrees of separation here in Aotearoa?
1.1.
What's your biggest learning from parenting?
When you are fighting with your child, you're fighting with yourself. So it's classic shadow projection, Jungian psychology. The thing that you don't like in your child is the thing that you don't like in you. But it's easier to shout at your child and tell them off for not tidying up when deep down you know that you don't tidy up anyway.
It's so true. It pierced me in the heart, but I feel seen.
I've triggered you. Yes.
Qualities you love about yourself.
So I think, we talked about indefatigable. I think I'd bring a lot of energy to situations. I like to think I'm a bit curious, a little bit mischievous. I kind of, like to bring, raving squirrels. We like to bring a little bit of that into what we do. I think that would about sum me up.
Epic. And epic that you didn't just start, because most people we ask are like, I don't know if there's much to learn, I don't know. and I always go,
look at the size of his head.
Yeah. No, but like it's wonderful. It's great that you know your strengths and that's awesome. And I'm sure there's heaps more too. So but thank you so much, Tim. This has been absolutely epic, and I can't wait to share this with other humans because I think there's a lot to learn in here. So thank you so much for watching today. Let us know what you think. Let us know your biggest learnings. Please share it with somebody else that you know will enjoy it, and check out some of the other videos on our website from all the other amazing humans that give us their time and share their wellbeing journeys. And we'll see you again next time. Ka kite.